So, when working on something for long periods of time, you can get burned out. It's like you feel overwhelmed and underwhelmed at the same time. You have been at it for 3 hours, but it feels like much longer and you can't go any further. Mentally, you have pushed yourself to exhaustion and you can't go any further. But the crazy part is that you didn't really do much. That's good. Pushing yourself is good. But in this case, it's not really efficient. The goal is to actually keep going without feeling burned out at all. How do you do this? Is that even possible? I think it is, on the short term and on the long term. Here's how. The pomodoro was invented by Francisco Cirillo in the late 1980s. I've been using the pomodoro technique for the last 3 years and it's been working really well. The pomodoro technique is basically working in sprints of 25 minutes and then resting for 5 minutes. So you work for 25 minutes and then rest for 5. So it's 25-5, 25-5, and so on and so on. After doing 4 to 5 of those 25 minutes, you can take a longer break. Usually it's 15 minutes. And after that, you can just keep going. For me, 25 minutes was a bit short. So I started doing 40-minute sprints and then resting for 5. Because I thought for me, working for a longer period of time could get me going much better and I could get more done in that time rather than the 25-minute sprints. Usually I do 3 sprints before taking that longer break instead of 4 or 5. This has helped me be more efficient throughout the day. Just like me, you can adapt the Pomodoro technique to something that works for you. So you're not obliged to use the 25-5. You could use 30, you could use 45, whatever works for you, as long as it's efficient and productive. You feel less exhausted and do more throughout the day. And at the end of the day, you'll feel better. What do you exactly do when there's something that takes much longer than 30 or 40 minutes? Something that you can't do in one sprint. You have to break it down in smaller chunks. Let's say you have a task that takes around 2 hours. What you could do is then break it down into sets of 4, whereas you do 30-minute sprints 4 times. And then every sprint you do a couple of tasks, and then at the end of 4 tasks you have finished the 2-hour task. It would take a bit longer than 2 hours because you're gonna have those 5-minute breaks. But those 5-minute breaks are very important for you because those 5 minutes can make you reset. It can make you take a step back, look at what you've done, correct what you did wrong, and then just take a breather, and then you can keep going for much longer. Rather than 2 hours straight focused, you are gonna feel tired at the end of those 2 hours. You're not gonna want to work anymore. But having those 5-minute increments, those 5-minute buffers for yourself can be very important for being productive longer. So if I could give an example of what I'm talking about, let's say 2 hours, it takes 2 hours to edit a video. So what you could do is break that edit down into 30-minute sprints. So let's say the first 30 minutes is rough cut, the second 30 minutes it's coloring, the third it's graphics, and the fourth it's effects and all that stuff. So now instead of working 2 hours straight, it's 30 minutes, rest for 5, 30 minutes, rest for 5, and so on and so on. When using this, I already explained it, but when using this, you can get more stuff done rather than focusing on one long task. It's sprints, short sprints, short sprints, short sprints. Obviously, you have a life and you can't stay laser focused on the thing for the entire 40 minutes. I don't go on my phone unless it's a call from a direct family member. And I do my best to not get up in those 40 minutes. In my mind, I can get distracted very easily. As I'm writing, I usually think about stuff I want to write, and usually I just go down a rabbit hole of the things I'm thinking. This is a problem I've had since I can remember. And getting distracted is a normal thing. It's nothing too crazy. It's not something you should be concerned about. Most of the time, it's that we distract ourselves. The best way to overcome a distraction is to recognize that it's a distraction. Let's say, for example, you are busy writing something and then you get a notification, then you start reading, replying, and then the reply starts to turn into a whole ass conversation. Before you start the actual conversation, you have to recognize it and acknowledge that this is a distraction for me. You let the person you're texting know, hey, I'm writing right now. Can I talk to you later? The person will understand, and you just put your phone away and then you start writing again. In simpler words, when you're distracted, you recognize it, you acknowledge it, and you put away whatever's distracting you. We're not robots. We have thoughts, we have feelings, so it's okay to feel distracted once in a while. You're not supposed to stay laser focused throughout the entire 40 minutes. The way you deal with things that come around when you're in that sprint, you have to wait until the sprint is over to deal with it. Let's say you get called to send an invoice, but you're working on a content schedule. You have to finish your pomodoro, finish that schedule, and in your break time, send the invoice to that client. If it's something unavoidable, let's say a call from a client, obviously you're gonna have to take that call, but you can just put a stop to that pomodoro, take the call, and when you're finished with the call, you can start the pomodoro again. It's like a timer you have to use. So every time you're getting a call from a client, let's say, you can pause that timer, and when you're done with the call, you can continue that timer. One of the other benefits that the Pomodoro technique has, it's having that sense of accomplishment when finishing a sprint. Every time you finish a sprint, you get to check off everything from that sprint. So you gain a little motivation from every sprint because you feel like, hey, I'm getting things done. And it's a good feeling and you feel motivated to just keep going. I don't know exactly how this works, but it's like every time your brain notices that you're getting things done, it's motivated to do more. It just locks in. I think it has to do with the dopamine that we get from accomplishing things. Now this is to avoid short-term burnouts. But let's talk about long-term burnouts. There are several ways for you to get burned out like this. The workload is too much, if things feel out of control at work, or if you don't get rewarded enough for the work that you do. Let's take me for example. There was a time when I had to work a lot for minimal payments because most of the money went back into the business. This mix of working a lot, not rewarding myself enough, and not socializing much was perfect for long-term burnout. I felt the quality of my work decreasing. I wasn't motivated or inspired to do anything, even though I really love creating. This was a really tough time for me, and I realized something had to change ASAP. I started to change things up by taking care of myself, exercising, meditating, journaling. These three things calmed me down mentally and allowed me to really sit and think about everything. At the end of the day, I would also start reading a little and go to sleep after that. Sleeping well is also extremely important to avoid long-term burnouts. 7 to 8 hours is necessary to reach deep sleep and recover and repair yourself mentally. You have to know your limits. How many hours is enough for you to say, I've done enough, and also that you can have enough time for your friends and family. Using the Pomodoro technique and knowing your limits will help you do more in the day and be more efficient. One thing I also want to say about avoiding burnouts is learning to say no. I've been in a lot of situations where, let's say, the money came first, and every single project that came in, I agreed to do. Even when I didn't think about how I would get it done, I just said, hey, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna finish it, let's do it. And I did get it done, but at the cost of my mental well-being. And if I kept working like that, I don't think I would be doing this for too long. Learning to say no is extremely important. And in conclusion, I'm looking forward to you using the Pomodoro technique and letting me know how it improved your productivity. Thanks for watching. If you like this, share it, subscribe, comment, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.